Shalom. This is the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge in Atlanta, Georgia. The subject I'm going to break down today is we're going to go through Genesis and break down Jacob and Esau. Specifically Esau, proving that he is the so-called white man according to the scriptures. A lot of times you hear us out on the street teaching that Esau or the Edomites is the so-called white race. We're going to prove that in the Bible. Remember also that we have classes being held in Atlanta, Georgia at the Central Branch Library in downtown. Any questions you have on classes or previous subjects, you can call 404-997-9123. Or if you're in the Atlanta area, you have any questions that you've been thinking about, make sure you call that number too and get up in these classes. Okay. First, we're going to start off in Genesis chapter 25. Start at verse 21. And it says, "And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived." Okay, so Isaac's wife Rebekah was barren, meaning she didn't have any children. She couldn't have children at the time. So Isaac went to the Most High, and the Most High put 2 children in Rebekah's womb. Okay. Verse 22, "And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord." Okay, so now he's saying that the children are struggling inside her womb. Okay, these two, they're twins, so they're struggling inside her womb. And if she's asking the Most High, if she's supposed to be pregnant, this is supposed to happen, why is she going through this pregnancy like this? You understand? It says she went to inquire of the Lord, meaning she went to a man of the Most High and asked him the question. Okay, and we're going to break down what the situation was. Verse 23 says, "And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." Okay, so when she went to the man of the Lord, what he told her was, there's 2 nations in her womb. You understand? So even though they're twins, you understand, even though they're brothers, when they come out, they're going to be 2 different nations or 2 races of people, 2 different manners of people, as it says in the scriptures. It says, "And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels." So when they come out, they'll be separate. Okay, there'll be 2 separate nations, even though they're brothers, even though they're twins. Okay, verse 24. "And when her days so I just go back to 23, and it says, 1 people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." Okay, so what is that saying? It's going to say that Jacob, the father of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, are going to be a stronger people than the so-called white man. You can see that on your sports and your entertainment. You see that in your everyday. You know that the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians are stronger physically than the so-called white man. You understand? And it says the elder shall serve the younger, meaning when Esau's time to rule is over, for his time to rule is a very short time. You understand? He will serve Jacob when it's all done and said. You understand? Like he'll serve Jacob. Okay, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians. Okay, verse 24. "And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau." Okay, so it's describing how the first son came out, the elder son. It said the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, so red and hairy. That is a description of the so-called white man. You understand? Like he's not white, that's why we call him so-called white. You understand? His blood shows forth through his skin. He has a curse of leprosy. You understand? Like the mark of Cain. The mark of Cain is to have the blood show forth through their skin, and it shows you who the murderer is on the earth. You understand? So that's what Esau had here, and he's very hairy. You understand? Like if you look at those old pictures of the caveman and things like that, all the long hair all over their body, kind of like an animal. You understand? Like a dog. You understand? They have that very hairy. You understand? And that's the so-called white man. Okay, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Okay, now you know the second child came out, and they didn't describe how he looked, because he looked like everyone else. Okay, he was a so-called black man, you understand, brown skin, whatever you want to call it. He was not red and hairy like Esau, so they didn't have to describe how he looked. Okay, and it says, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. Okay, so if you could picture that, the first baby's coming out, that's the elder, and Jacob is holding on to the heel of Esau, because Jacob is the kingdom that comes after Esau. You understand? After Esau's put to death, after the Edomites' rulership is over, Jacob is the next world that's going to rule forever. Understand? Remember, the Edomites' time to rule is a very short time, but Jacob's time to rule is going to be for eternity. You understand? Verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Okay, this is another description of the so-called white man. When they say the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. You understand? If you turn on the TV, you see Edomites, or so-called white men, all in the fields with the camouflage, and they're cunning hunters. You understand? They like to be out there, outdoors, putting the deer urine on them, and trying to blend in, and you know, hiking and all that. They're men of the field, a cunning hunter. And if you look at also his Esau's military, you understand, with all those jets they got and all those tracking devices and heat sensors, like they can find Arab in the middle of the desert, stuck in a cave somewhere, just by flying or hovering over and picking up the heat waves. You understand? Like they have that type of technology. You understand? They are cunning hunters. You understand? Just like if you turn on your TV recently, if you heard about that jet that no one can find, the big mystery about this jet from Malaysia that they can't find it. You turn on the news, you see Esau's Navy jets trying to find it, the Australians trying to find it. Like they're cunning hunters. They're going to try to find it until, you understand, until they come up with an answer. Like that's what he's into, right? But it says Jacob is a plain man. You understand? You talk to a brother, you understand, a so-called black, Hispanic, Native American Indian. You ask them what they doing, you know, they just chilling, they just hanging out, you know, so at the crib, just, you know, I mean, I ain't doing nothing, you know. A plain man, not all like Esau, all in the fields, like and things like that. You understand? Like you know, just a description of the so-called white man compared to you know, Jake. You understand? That's slang for the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay. Let's skip down to verse 30. It says, Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom. Okay, so Esau was asking Jacob for this pottage that Jacob's made can eat, because he was out hunting, you understand, and he feels like he at the point to die, so he's hungry. He wants Jacob to give him the food, but it's not cooked all the way yet. Okay, we have a law in Israel that your meat has to be cooked all the way. You can't eat the blood of any animal. You understand? It has to be cooked the way out, drained out and cooked out. Okay. And verse 31, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? Okay, so, you know, Jacob's making a business proposition, you understand? It was said from the beginning that Jacob would get the promise, but this is how it played out. He told Esau to sell him his birthright for this pottage, and Esau, being the bastard that he is, not having any integrity, you understand, not caring about his father or anything like that, would rather have this porridge that's not even cooked yet all the way, instead of having his birthright, you understand? And this is the lack of integrity that the so-called white man has. And this is what we have to understand as black men. Like, we're supposed to put this spirit back in us to have that type of integrity, right? Okay, and it says, 33, and Jacob said, swear to me this day, and he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. So he sold the birthright, verse 34. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So Esau didn't give a damn about his birthright, you understand? But it was played out, that's how it was played out, but it was always known, or in the scripture that we know that the promise was supposed to go to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You understand? Not to Esau anyway, but that's how it played out. All right. Last scripture I'm going to go to, since we understand that that's the so-called white man, and that's just small scripture. You understand? That's just pretty much the breakdown of the Genesis 25 that we bring out. But understand that we know Esau is the so-called white man because in scripture how he dwells in the cliffs of the rocks, things like that. How he's a caveman. And you know, just more description how he exalts himself as the eagle, swift as the eagle flieth, the Edom, Idumea, things like that. Those are all in the scripture. We can pull that out more. This is just a quick breakdown. Okay, like I said, if you have more questions, call 404-997-9123. Okay. Last scripture again is Romans 9 verse 13. It says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So we understand that Esau is the so-called white man. The Most High said, as it is written, in the Old Testament, Jacob have I loved, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, but Esau have I hated, the so-called white man. Why does he hate the so-called white man? Because of the crimes that he's committed against his people. You understand? The crimes that the so-called white man did, the lynching, the slavery, you understand, the lies, exalting himself to be God, to be the Son of God. Like the lies he did, that's why he's the devil. You understand? He's the greatest deceiver, the serpent, most subtle beast in the field, you understand? Okay, that's pretty much it on that. Make sure you pay your tithes to the ISUPK, 10%, whatever the Most High gives you. So if you're logging into classes and you're taking part of the classes and you're trying to become part of this brotherhood, do your part and pay your tithes to the school, you understand? So if you get $100, you pay $10 to the school, that's 10%. Remember, classes in Atlanta, Georgia, downtown, Central Branch Library. With that, I'm going to say shalom.